back to Betty. I'm your host, Cynthia Thompson. And aren't you all in for a treat today? Today, the show is going to be so filled with information that each and every one of us needs. So I want you to listen very closely because today we have a fire educator on my show, and his name is Greg Frankus.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me today, Greg.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Before we get started, I have a list of questions for you about fire safety. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got to be in this role with the fire department.
Well, I've been with the fire department for 22 years, and I've enjoyed my time here. I started off in operations as a firefighter. I spent some time in code enforcement, and I always had an interest in the education aspect, the teaching aspect, and so when I had a chance to go into fire and life safety education and pursue that line of a career in the fire department, I took advantage of it.
So I'm going to just jump right in with my questions for you. And the first one is a very basic question. What exactly is a fire?
Well, a fire is basically a chemical chain reaction. You have three things that need to happen, that have to be present: oxygen, heat, and fuel. And those three things come together in the right proportions. And when they do, there's a chemical chain reaction, and that results in fire.
And so how long fast does it take the flame to start into a fire?
Well, it depends on your heat source and how hot that source is initially. Something with a lower heat is going to have to smolder for a while until it burns enough, generates enough heat to reach the ignition temperature. Something that's of a higher temperature to begin with will need less time to reach the ignition temperature.
So how hot can the flames of a fire get?
Well, it's thought that within the first 4 minutes of a fire, temperatures down here at the floor will be above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and around eye level, you're talking about 600 degrees. That's just in the first couple of minutes.
In the first couple of minutes?
Yes.
Ooh. So tell me, when there is a fire, what exactly does it do to your lungs when you're, like if you were in a room where there was a fire? What happens to your lungs?
Well, a couple of things. If you breathe that super hot air, you're going to burn your respiratory tract. In addition, within the smoke that's present is carbon monoxide. Now, what happens when you get a respiratory burn is your trachea swells up, becomes difficult to breathe. And you can die from that. Respiratory burns are very highly fatal, and in addition, you have the complication of carbon monoxide. So not only is your airway swollen and it's difficult to breathe, you're also getting less oxygen because of the presence of carbon monoxide.
So how much of that carbon monoxide does it take to, I guess, kill a person?
Well, again, it depends on the concentration. If you have a higher concentration, it's going to take less time. If you have a lower concentration, you may exhibit symptoms for a long period of time before it builds up to the point that you would become unconscious. So it varies depending on the situation, but in a high concentration, one or two breaths might be all that you can get. You have no oxygen.
Whoa. With that, let's talk about some fire safety.
Okay.
We live in our homes every day.
Yes.
That's where we spend most of our time. What are some safety tips for fire safety in the home?
Okay. Well, first let me point out one thing.
Okay.
In our homes is where we typically feel the safest.
Right.
Right? That's not the case when it comes to fire. Folks are in more danger of dying in a fire in a residential property than any other kind of property. So we really need to be vigilant in our homes when it comes to fire safety. So the most basic thing that anybody can do is have a smoke alarm that works. That is the, building block, ground zero, where you start from when you talk about home fire safety.
So what are some typical things that start fires in the homes?
Well, the most common cause is cooking. Now that's something that we all do every day, right?
Some of us.
Some better than others, right? Okay. But how many people today are just doing one thing at a time?
Not me.
No. You might be cooking, you're talking on the cell phone, or you're doing something over here on the computer at the same
Right.
time, or you're chasing the kids, or you're helping somebody with their homework,
Right.
Or maybe you're running back and forth between the other room watching a movie or a sporting event.
Right.
Or you're sitting talking to somebody, a neighbor or a friend. So it seems like in our lifestyle today, we are so busy with multitasking that we tend to take some things for granted. And because we cook so much, and generally speaking, we don't have any problems, it's real easy for people to fall into the trap that they don't need to pay as much attention to the cooking as they should.
So let's talk about the things that we cook with, like the stove. How can you prevent a fire from happening from cooking a meal on your stove?
Well, housekeeping number one. Okay, make sure the stove is clean. It doesn't have a buildup of grease or oil. Make sure that any combustible packaging, towels, curtains, things like that, are not anywhere where they can fall onto a burner. Make sure that you pay attention.
Right.
You know, you got to be there and you got to watch. Also, your heat. Regulate your heat. Don't turn something up on high and then walk away or become distracted. If you got to change your heat, bring it down and then, you know, make whatever other changes you got to make. But make sure you turn the heat down or turn it off.
You know, a lot of times when people cook, they cook with hot grease. How do you take care of a grease fire if you happen to have that on your stove?
Well, the first thing to do is realize that there is a very real danger there.
Oh, yes.
Okay? And you want to make sure that no matter what you choose to do, that you are giving some sort of alert to people in the house that there's a problem. Okay? Don't delay in letting people know there's a problem. If you can, you take the lid for that pot or that pan and you carefully slide it over and into place. That will take the oxygen out of the equation and help to extinguish the fire. And now at the same time, you need to turn off the heat because we want to reduce that heat source. The key here is you're not done when you do that. Okay? You still need to call the fire department.
Oh, you still need to call.
You still need to call the fire department.
Why?
If that heat has not dissipated and you take that lid off, guess what? You could have another fire. So a lot of times people will think they've got the problem solved and they don't. So we always want you to call the fire department. We will come out, we will check, we will make sure that nothing's gotten, you know, back behind the stove, in the walls, up in the cabinets, things like that.
I hadn't even thought about that. What's some fire safety tips for cooking with a microwave?
Well, of course, you know, no metal objects. If you do have something that catches on fire, leave the door closed, unplug, and call the fire department.
Still call the fire department.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people, they have electric grills that you can use in the house and outside. What's some safety tips with those?
Well, grills, you know, whether they're electric or propane or charcoal, it's still a cooking appliance. So for the most part, you have to treat it like any other cooking appliance. You got to have proper supervision, proper attention. Now, when you look at grills with propane and charcoal, you have some other concerns, okay? Because you're using an open flame. So the first thing is you never want to use that inside any enclosed area because of carbon monoxide. Also, if you would have a leak of fuel, propane, within that enclosed area, you have a real problem. So you always want to make sure they're used outside in very well ventilated areas.
Okay.
You want to make sure you're 10 feet away from any combustible materials, whether horizontal or vertical. So that means, you know, not only the side of your house, but the wooden deck, pine needles, mulch, trees that overhang. You know, so make sure you have at least 10 feet away. Always make sure that whatever appliance you're using, you have read the owner's manual and that you're following all the recommendations that have been set forth by the manufacturer.
I didn't think about that. A lot of people don't read the manual.
Nope.
When they buy something, they just plug it up and go for it.
And that can lead to problems. That
Tell
can
me
lead to
something.
problems.
You know, during the holidays, a lot of people fry turkeys. What should they do whenever they fry a turkey? What are the safety things I need to look at?
Well, there's some real safety concerns there. Number one, again, is the hot oil.
Right.
Okay? But instead of having this much in a pan, you got this much in a pot. Next, they're on an appliance that you don't use frequently. So you may not be as familiar with that appliance, its operation, and its safety. Whenever you have water and grease or oil, they obviously don't mix. We know
No, they
that.
don't mix.
So unless your turkey has been properly prepared, thawed, so that there's no water, no ice crystals, when you put that in the oil, if it's not been properly prepared, you could have a very violent reaction. So you want to make sure that, again, no combustible materials anywhere around, no children around. This is something that needs to be done by adults. It requires complete attention. These things can really cause some serious problems.
Yeah, I've seen where you have a lot of fires around Thanksgiving because people are doing the wrong thing.
And it's not a 5-minute process. So people will put that
really?
turkey in there, and then again, they're distracted. They go in to watch some of the football game or whatever. Here's this pot of boiling grease, you know, sitting on the deck or in the driveway or wherever. Nobody's watching it, and who knows what could happen.
People really do that?
Oh, yes.
You know, I've never had one before, so I'm just surprised that someone would leave that unattended, as hot as it is.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing it on your deck, there's a chance that...
Yeah, I mean, that's a combustible surface.
Oh, you know, you've told us a lot today. Let's take a little break
Okay.
while I digest all this, okay?
All right.
All right.
Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone, but you're not alone. At IAVA.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. IAVA.org. We've got your back.
I'm home, and I love it. I'm home, where I belong.
It's always nice to come home, but many Americans are at risk of foreclosure and losing their homes. Making Home Affordable from the U.S. government has already helped over 1 million struggling homeowners like these. The sooner you act, the better chance we can help you.
I'm home, where I belong.
Hey.
Ready to go?
Yeah, but the fire's not out.
It's close enough.
Close enough? If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. I mean, the next thing you know, you've torched our whole neighborhood.
Which is why we're not going anywhere.
Exactly. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hi, and welcome back to Better You. I'm your host, Cynthia Thompson. I'm here with Greg, and before we went on break, we were talking about fire safety in the home.
Yeah.
Now tell me, Greg, what should a person do if by chance they're cooking, you see a grease fire? Now me, I would probably just move the pan, which is not a good thing to do. I know that now. What would I do if by chance my sleeve caught on fire on my shirt?
Well, you know, it's the same thing that we learned as kids in elementary school. It's the stop, drop, and roll if your clothes are on fire. That is one of those life skills that doesn't change, you know, regardless of how old you are, whether you're a young kid, a teenager, an adult, a senior citizen. If your clothes are on fire, it's stop, drop, and roll. You want to make sure you do that until the flames are out. And the key here is to really try to make contact with the ground. so that those flames can be smothered out quickly. So you don't want to flop around like a fish. You know, you want it to be a good, solid with the ground contact, stop, drop, and roll.
Okay. That's even in your house, right?
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are. Let's talk a little bit about scented candles. I love to have candles in my house because they smell good and it's calming, but these can cause fires in the home too.
Yes, we do every year have a number of candle-related fires. Typically, these will happen more frequently around the holidays as people use decorations and they use these candles for ambiance and what have you. Now, the thing to remember about candles is that is an open flame. Okay, so the first thing is you never leave an open flame unattended. So if you've got to leave the room or leave the house or whatever, you should extinguish that candle. The next thing is, with an open flame, you don't want to use that when there's a possibility that you will fall asleep. Okay? Who's going to be there to watch that candle if you fall asleep? Now, I know, at least with me, I can be sitting watching TV and I have no intention of falling asleep.
But it happens.
But it happens. You don't see the end of the movie. You don't see the end of the football game. Right? Now just think if that happens where you got a candle burning on the end table. Especially if it's not protected by a glass globe or cover of any sort. It burns down, comes in contact with the table surface or something that's there. Or maybe you got a cat. And that cat jumps up on the table, knocks that candle over. Maybe the window's open a little bit, and the curtains are blowing in the breeze and coming in contact. So you never want to use a candle or any open flame when you're sleepy, tired, lying down, or in your bedroom.
You know, that brings up a good point, being in the bedroom. A lot of people smoke, and no, they should not do that, but a lot of people do. What are some safety tips for people that do choose to smoke?
Well, smoking and fire deaths go very closely together.
Oh, really?
And it's sad to report that the number one cause of home fire deaths is smoking. So when people die in a fire, the number one cause of all those fires where those deaths occur is smoking when we talk about residential properties. Now, that's something that's preventable. If you are a smoker, you need to step up and accept responsibility for the hazard that exists and for making sure that you eliminate that hazard. So smoke outside. That's number one.
I don't understand how that happens. If you're smoking, you just fall asleep and you just have the cigarette in your hand?
Just like if you're reading a book. People fall asleep reading a book, watching TV. Or maybe they're smoking, but they've set that cigarette down in the ashtray. The ashtray's sitting in the bed with them. You know, it falls out, it rolls over, or maybe they throw it in the trash can. They didn't fully extinguish it, and they've emptied the ashtray or thrown the cigarette in the trash can. They go to bed. That cigarette can smolder for hours before it generates enough heat to reach the ignition temperature of the trash or whatever's around it, the upholstery on the furniture, and start a fire. So it could be hours later.
I did not even know
that fire occurs from that cigarette.
Oh my God. Let's talk a little bit about electrical fires. I know we kind of touched on it just a tiny bit with the microwave ovens, but how does that even happen at a house, an electrical fire?
Well, most electrical fires are caused by either faulty wiring to begin with, something that wasn't done right, licensed professionals maybe weren't used, overloads, and extension cords. Now, especially in older houses, nobody seems to have enough outlets.
This is true. You don't have enough of them in the new ones either.
So people will use adapters and extenders. They'll run extension cords from other places in the house to get electricity where they want it. And these things contribute to the electrical fires that we see.
So those, I know you had the strip things with the different plug-in?
surge protector.
Yeah.
Surge
Thank you.
protectors, right. Now, that does afford some degree of protection. The fact is that they have a mechanism that will trip and cut off the current should there be a surge of power.
Oh.
If you're going to use a surge protector, make sure that you buy a product that has been tested and certified by Underwriters Laboratory. That's the UL symbol, the circle with the U and the L in it, or by Factory Mutual, which is FM, and it's kind of a diamond shape with an F and an M in it.
Oh, I didn't know
So
it was
you
a different
want to
one.
make sure that you use products that have been tested and certified.
You know, we talked just a little bit about smoke alarms. Let's go into more detail about those. I know there are different types of smoke alarms. Can you talk about that some?
Well, you know, not to get too technical for anybody, there's a photoelectric smoke alarm and there is an ionization smoke alarm. And they operate differently, but the fact of the matter is any smoke alarm is better than no smoke alarm. And if you have a choice, I would buy what they call a dual sensor smoke alarm, which employs both types of detection, the ionization and the photoelectric, into one unit. The other option would be to buy two separate units and mount them nearby.
So, would the fire department install it for you if by chance you buy one? Because I know I have two of them. They're battery operated.
Right.
Is that the most common type?
That's a very common type, especially in the older houses, depending on when they were built and what the code requirement was. That might be all there is battery powered. There might not be any electrical current to that smoke alarm. Now, as far as what the fire department does, if we have someone who is in need of a smoke alarm or a battery, we will provide that.
Oh,
They
really?
can call the smoke alarm hotline. And that number is 704-336-2697. On that line, they can leave information such as name, address, phone number. Typically, we do these for seniors or folks who are in financial need, but we will help out whoever we can with these requests. We will provide the alarm, the battery, and we will install it for them.
So, where do you commonly see the smoke alarms?
Well, you should always have at least one on every floor of the house. You need to have them outside each sleeping area. And typically you would want them within 10 feet of your bedroom door. So if you have a 3-bedroom house and all 3 bedrooms are at one end of the hall, it might be that one detector properly located could be within 10 feet of each of those 3 doors. If not, then you need more than one. It's even a good idea to have them in your bedroom.
So, I want to ask you one quick question because, believe it or not, we're almost out of time. What are some lasting words you can give us for fire safety? I know we touched on the home a lot, but people work outside of the home.
Yeah.
They go on vacation. What are some lasting words that you would like to leave with my viewers about fire safety?
Well, I think the first thing is, if you have a problem, call the fire department. If you suspect you have a problem, call the fire department. That means even if you don't see fire or don't see smoke, but you smell it, you need to call the fire department. The earlier notification that we get, the easier it is for us to come in and take care of any situation that might exist or be starting. So don't hesitate, don't delay. If you have a problem in your house, anything that's in that house can be replaced,
This is true.
but not you,
That's true.
okay? Your main thought needs to be getting you and your family members out safely. Let the fire department be the fire department and put the fire out.
One last question I just thought of, and I can't leave without asking this. Should you practice a fire drill in your home? The way you do it at school or at work, should you do that in your home too?
Well, if you remember earlier, we talked about most fire deaths occur in the homes, right? Why do we practice fire drills in schools? But that's not where the fire deaths are.
That's true.
Okay?
Or at work.
Or at work. So those places where we practice those drills, it makes a difference. So if we did that in our homes, it would make a difference there too. The fact of the matter is, when you are in your home, fire safety is your responsibility,
Right.
whether you want it or not. The code does not give me or any fire official the ability to come in your house and make you do a fire drill,
Right.
or make you do anything fire safety related. But I can go into schools, hospitals, daycares, nursing homes with the full backing of the code to make sure that things are the way they should be. So it comes down to, how safe do you want your house to be?
Thank you so much for coming, Greg. I could ask you a dozen more questions.
Well, we can do it again.
You're going to have to come back because I wanted to ask you about being on vacation, college students, and I want to thank you again for coming.
I
know
enjoyed
my
it.
viewers have learned a lot today. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today here on A Better You, every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. here on Public Access 21. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was really good.